Hello, Audioholics. This is Logan, and welcome to Audioholics Anonymous. Today, we are going to be doing a different series. This is Rolling Drones. See what I did there? So, basically, I'll quick explain this, but first, let's say hello to whatever the fuck this thing is.
My name is Ryler, since we're just replacing things with R now.
Oh, well, well, in that case, I guess the opposite of that would be calling you what you really are, which is titarded. So anyway, let's just kind of quickly go over what this is. So many of you know Rolling Stone magazine, the best publication ever to exist. Well, they have a lot of lists of the best albums of all time. Their most popular one being the top 500 albums of all time. We aren't going to do that one. We are going to be doing the top 100 metal albums of all time.
I mean, that one's not much better. We're talking 100 albums.
Yeah. I mean, we already have our work cut out for us. And maybe if we get done with this and we don't die first, I mean, fuck, 2020, I don't even know.
You never know.
If we do that, maybe we'll get to the top 500 albums of all time. But for right now, let's just focus on this. So, a couple things to mention before we go. We are going to at least cover all 100 albums, but we do reserve the right to skip albums if, say, we've already heard them, or we just immediately realize that it's just not our thing and not ever going to be our thing. I mean,
Yeah, so, like, the rules that I set up were that, if we listen to 3 songs and we just cannot stand to listen to that album anymore, we can shut it off.
yeah.
And in the case where we do that with an album, we won't make a video on it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, it makes
and
no
then there
sense
are
to make a
also
video like, I listened to 3 songs. They
yeah,
sucked.
and
We'll mention it.
yeah. So also we have some albums that we just cannot rate. For those albums, we have this, which basically means not rateable. So, without further ado, let's get to the worst album on this list by Rolling Stone standards. This is Avenge Sevenfold Evil City, right? City of Evil.
City of Evil.
Yeah. Yeah, what he said.
Do you want me to go first, or do you
Yeah,
want to?
you go first.
All right, so City of Evil is an album that I have, of course, heard before. I'm a fan of Avenge Sevenfold, and I have been since I was a kid. Um, it's a classic album in my mind. It just kicks ass constantly. It's got amazing drumming, badass riffs, great vocals. My dog is going insane. He's just sprinting around the room.
The dog likes Avenge Sevenfold too,
So,
apparently.
where was I right? Yeah, he's moshing to the fucking album.
Exactly.
Badass riffs, great vocals. All around metal masterpiece with lots of diversity within the runtime of the album. Sinister Gates is actually the guitar player, if you didn't know, is actually a huge standout. Definitely one of the more underrated guitar players around. He's very, very, very good. But a lot of people don't give him credit. Certainly, that is changing. There are a growing number of people who realize just how fucking good this guy is, but it's not nearly enough, in my opinion. I think that M Shadows, I know M Shadows, the vocalist, isn't his style isn't for everybody. Okay, I can acknowledge that. But I think that he adds a lot of personality to the record. I always loved his style. I think his style is unique enough that you could hear 5 seconds of him singing and you would know exactly who it is. Even if you've never heard the song before and it was from a completely different band, you would know it was M Shadows. Because he has such a distinct voice and a distinct style that nobody else has or does. He clearly has a fair amount of influence from bands like Pantera, your new wave British heavy metal bands, and also like a fair amount of like grunge bands as well. He does that sort of like moaning croon that Alice in Chains does and Nirvana does worse, and the sort of grunge aspect to his voice. Like I said, I think that fact brings a lot of personality to the album, and I think like if you replaced him with any other singer, Avenge Sevenfold would suck. He really makes the band stand out, in my opinion. So, although this is not my favorite Avenged Sevenfold album, I personally prefer The Stage, their newest record, and Nightmare, which is my favorite. It definitely belongs on this list, and I would give it a what do we have, an A and S? I would give it an A tier.
A tier. All
I would
right.
give it an A tier. The essential tracks for me, the ones that you have to listen to: Beast in the Harlot, Bat Country, Strength of the World. And the one that you can skip is Betrayed. Never really enjoyed that song. It's not bad, just not a standout.
All right. So I'm gonna give this an A rating as well. So I I grew up with Avenged Sevenfold too, but I never really cared for them when I was younger. I had a friend who listened to like Avenged Sevenfold, Disturbed, um, Nickelback, Daughtry, Seether, Godsmack, and I kind of, as a result of that, kind of lumped a lot of those bands together. And admittedly, that is not something I am very proud of. But yeah, this is definitely a cut above all of those. The mid 2000s was just a very wild time. You did have some good music. I mean, obviously, you had like your System of a Downs, and in other genres, you had like Green Day and the Killers and Modest Mouse and shit like that. But for every System of a Down, you had like 10 Buck Cherries and Nickelbacks. So that being said, this is top shelf metal and deserves to be on this list. Um, it's amazing anthems. I mean, you have just so many that I'll get to in a little bit, but outstanding instrumentals. He was talking about, what's this guy's name? Uh,
The vocalist,
no, the guitarist.
Sinister Gates.
Sinister Gates. Yeah, I mean, like he's saying this guy isn't getting enough credit. Fuck those guys. I'm giving him the credit. I'll give the credit for them. He's one of the best guitarists of all time, at least in metal. Um, Outstanding instrumentals, like I said, and also the drumming is another standout. Unfortunately, I think the drummer passed away. What is his name? Reverend?
It was called The Rev.
The Rev. Okay. Um, yeah, and you said the vocal style is not everybody's style. Guess what category I fall into? I hate the vocalist, and I think it would actually be improved by literally anybody else. Um, like you said, like, oh, it's like similar to Pantera. Okay, well, Pantera's vocals suck too. So I mean,
I take exception to that, motherfucker.
okay, like
No, I don't think Them Shadows sounds similar to the vocalist from Pantera. I just think he took influence
yeah,
from killing someone.
okay, yeah, I think he took influence as well, but yeah, the vocalist of Pantera isn't very good. Not to say that Pantera is a bad band. I love them, but the vocals are not the vocals are not the selling point. The lyrics are the selling point. Dimebag Daryl is the selling point. The vocals do what they're supposed to do, I guess. Um, Very diverse album as well. There are song there are songs like Strength of the World, for example, that are very epic and use a lot of like orchestral elements. Uh, like the first one, for example, what is that? Beast and the Harlot. That opens with a fucking cowbell, and it's not buried in the mix. Blue Oyster Cult. Uh, it is a little bit on the long side, but I can say this is one of those long albums where I never feel like it drags. I never felt that listening to this album. They make perfect use of every minute of those hour and 10 minutes, which is very, very impressive. A lot of bands cannot do that. A lot of bands that we have covered on things like Audioholics Unite and Wrong Opinion. Some songs are better than others. He mentioned Betrayal. I'm going to mention another one in a bit. And there are songs like MIA, which are very good, but just because they are on this album, and this album has so many great anthems, it's a little bit of a cut below the rest. Like if this was on if another band had written and done MIA, that would be the best song of their career. Avenge Sevenfold is just a Tuesday, you know what I mean? So overall, it takes the traditional Priest and Sabbath metal formula and takes it to its logical conclusion. It basically does the most that it can with a style that many would argue by this point had been run into the ground by then, and you couldn't really do a whole lot with it. Avenged Sevenfold definitely proved them wrong, along with a couple other bands. So, the essential tracks, Beast and the Harlot, and Backcountry, I agree with him on Tyler, with Tyler on that one. I think the other standout, though, is Trashed and Scattered. That's one of my favorite songs on the album. One of my least favorite songs on the album is Seize the Day. It's this really weird ballad. And Avenged Sevenfold had a habit of doing that every so often. And I'm not necessarily against ballads, but if they don't really go anywhere and they aren't necessarily, you know, I think this is just a very kind of boring sounding ballad. It's not awful by any means, but songs like that and also the vocal style prevents it from being an S tier album, which it theoretically could have been. So that's all I really have to say. Do you have any finishing thoughts, any comments, criticisms, harsh criticisms, violent criticisms? Go.
I mean, the only thing I want to add is that Seize the Day is a great song. I don't know what you're on about. That chorus is so, like, patchy. It's a complete earworm.
I mean, I don't personally like it. I guess I can understand how some could. Like I said, it's by no means a terrible song. I just think it's my least favorite on the album. So, with all of that,
really else.
Yeah. So join us tomorrow where we listen to Fallen by Evanescence.
It's going to be fun.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hello.
Still recording.
No, it's not.